is 4:30, so we'll go ahead and get started. And as you heard the TV there, the meeting is being recorded electronically. And Kevin, it'll be put on Dighton Town YouTube.
Yeah, so if you youtube.com/Town of Dighton, it will be, it'll go right to our page, so.
Okay, fantastic. So for those of you I haven't met, I'm Bill Rooney and I'm the superintendent for the Dighton Rehoboth Regional School District, and appreciate everybody coming. Like for us to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so if we could just go around the room with introductions, name, and your role/roles. So we'll start with Mr. Hall.
Hello, Leonard Hall. I am a member of a community at large member.
My name is Ruth Texera, also a community member. Looking forward to being on the committee.
Thank you.
Caitlin Lima, I'll be the principal at Dighton Elementary in the fall. Well, July 1.
July 1.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Leo Brem, and I'll be the district business administrator on July 1st. So a couple more days left as the IT director. Yeah.
Kevin Smith, community member.
Damian Preston, facilities director.
Alicia Wilson, community member.
Johnny Burdo, school committee.
Mark Pacheco, Board of Selectmen representative.
Bob Perry, community member.
And Liza Kuchar, school committee.
How about the bosses over there? All right. Well, thank you all very much for coming. This is really potentially exciting work. I had the privilege and pleasure of being on a school building committee for 7 years in Attleboro when we built a $265 million new high school. And we cut the ribbon and then I left. So my daughter still teaches there and my other two children are graduates from there, and they give me a hard time about leaving that building, but I couldn't pass up this opportunity to come to work in DR. So we'll talk a little bit more about the work in a minute. I think the next order of business is that we need to, for the purposes of the MSBA, we have to turn in a form that has all of our names on it, has our various roles on it. And they are looking for a chair and a vice chair. And I think it would be prudent for us maybe to also have someone who would be willing to be a secretary. So.
Is there any preference from the MSBA who fills those roles?
No, no. So.
Are we going to do it parliamentary wise, nomination second?
Yeah.
At this time, I'd like to make a motion to appoint William Rooney as chairman of the Dighton Elementary School Building Committee.
Second.
Thank you. All right. Mr. Reynolds, how are you?
Hi.
Let's go. Everybody.
Oh, I think there's a packet down there for you.
Thank you.
Well, I'm going to get you to introduce yourself, but we have a motion and a second on the floor. So, we have a motion and a second. Do you all prefer I step out for discussion?
No.
Okay. All right.
Talk about you right in front of you.
Any discussion?
Do you feel like it's appropriate with given your other workload?
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure it's like, something that you're willing to.
Absolutely. Yeah.
take on.
I appreciate the question. It's something that I I feel as if, being the leader of the district is something that I'm going to have to be, neck deep in anyway. So it would be an honor.
All the motion is for Superintendent Rooney to be the chairman. So you know.
Sorry about that. All right, any other discussion, questions? All right,
I think where you've had so much experience, you'd be perfect to be the chairman.
oh, thank you.
I prefer to have you there simply because you know what you did right first time and you know what you need, maybe a little bit of improvement on, but clearly a leader.
Thank you very much. All right, I'm going to cut it off before anybody says anything else good about me, or any of my team says anything bad about me, so.
I'll wait for my new contract to start. Don't worry.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you very much.
So I'd like to make a motion to appoint Attorney Alicia Wilson as vice chair.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second for Attorney Wilson to be vice chair. Is that acceptable to you?
That's acceptable to me.
All right. Any discussion?
I think you're a good fit because she's also been through this.
Yes.
Great.
All right. No other discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Or condolences. Would someone be willing to take minutes?
Secretary, secretary is acting in what we would more commonly call the clerk.
Yep.
I don't mind doing it. I'm a geek for doing meeting minutes.
All right.
Someone stepping up for that one. I'll nominate this gentleman right here for that.
All right. So, Mr. Reynolds, we went around the room, quickly introduced ourselves. We'll do that one more time for your benefit, although I know you know most of the people, but we'll let you get started.
Thank you very much. I apologize for being a couple of minutes.
That's all right. That's all right.
Oh, I'm Paul Reynolds, town treasurer in Texas.
Let's just go down the road one more time.
Let it hope.
Ruth Texera, community member.
Caitlin Lima, I'll be the assistant principal at Dayton Elementary.
Principal.
Principal. Oh my God, I need to stop doing that.
Yeah, no.
Right? I'm so used to introducing
She'll be
myself
the
as that.
principal. Leo Brem, and I will be the district business administrator in the school district.
Kevin Smith, community member. Nice to meet you.
Damian Preston, facilities director.
Alicia Wilson, community member.
Bill Rooney.
School committee.
Oh.
Mark Pacheco, Board of Selectmen.
Bob Perry, community member.
And Liza Kuchar, school committee.
All right. Okay, so I've prepared quite a few artifacts for you. I apologize for the small print on the slideshow, but it was 31 pages, and I know my school committee members like for me to be prudent in terms of how much color printing I do. So just to start, I guess, in chronological order, probably the thickest packet that you have has the Massachusetts School Building Authority header, and it says next steps to finalize submission for your FY '23 statement of interest. So this was something that we submitted back in April of 2023. And the if you look on the first page, obviously there are a lot of things that both the town and the district have to agree to as far as the submission is concerned. I'm very grateful to Mr. Karen, who worked with me from the town perspective. Obviously, Mr. Mullen, who was the town administrator at the time, was very helpful. And then also I worked with Aaron Morse, who was the school committee chair at that particular time. So that's why our signatures are there on page 3. I think what's extremely important is what you see on page 4, and that is the priorities that the MSBA is looking for. So the MSBA is a very competitive process. There are more projects that need to get done than they can fund each year. And so it's extremely important that you, when you submit the statement of interest, that you articulate the priorities to them. And upon review, which I have to give the MSBA a lot of credit, we picked priorities 2, 4, and 7. But after their review, the Massachusetts School Building Authority suggested that we also check off number 1 and number 5. So either replacement or renovation of a building which is structurally unsound and otherwise conditioned, seriously jeopardizing the health, safety of school children where no alternative exists. And then also number 5, replacement, renovation, or modernization of school facility systems such as roofs, windows, boilers, heating, and ventilation systems to increase energy conservation and decrease energy-related costs. Because the main part of the building is 1950s construction, and there was some renovation work done in the late 90s, but none of it is really up to speed anymore. Damien, what would you say is kind of the overall condition of the boilers and?
Well, the boilers are new, less like 17 they were put in, but everything else is not new.
Okay, all right.
Is the gymnasium in addition? Is that section newer?
A while ago, I believe. Yeah, it's about the 90s type of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Anecdotally, from what I've been told was that the cafeteria was the cafeteria and the gymnasium and
Altogether, yeah.
all that. And then in that 90s window, that's when the gym was.
Massachusetts loves a good cafetorium.
Catholic gym tour.
Yeah.
Cafe gymtorium.
Question. Item number 5, it says replacement, renovation, and modernization of school facility system. In this whole process, I mean, we're going to look at the existing facility, I assume.
Yep.
And look at what is, a lack of a better term, usable or salvageable as part of the overall project. Is that a fair statement?
That's one of the considerations, yes. Yeah, so one of the considerations will be a renovation. They also refer to it as an ad reno, so like a renovation for part of it and an addition to part of it, which is kind of what they did in the 90s, even though that wasn't an MSBA project. And then the third option is new construction. So would just completely replace the existing building. But if the town votes in favor of moving forward with feasibility, then those are options that will be presented to us through the feasibility study.
You know, I would assume you just said there were essentially 3 options. I would assume that at the end of the feasibility study, each one of those options would be examined and then presented as something in the positive column, something in the negative column to make an assessment as to which option would be more viable.
Yeah, and a good faith cost estimate, you know, associated with those as well. So, yeah, so when we went through feasibility in Attleboro, that building was built in 2 phases. One phase was 1962, the other phase was 1972. And as a part of feasibility, you know, one of the questions that they answer for you is what happens if the town votes no and you just do nothing? They were able to demonstrate to us that The systems that we had, heating, we didn't have any real cooling, but our heating, our plumbing, those types of systems, those major systems would fail probably within 5 years. When those failed, they would trigger, because of the amount of money that it would cost to replace those, it would trigger all of the ADA updates, all of the building code updates, electricity, all that kind of stuff. And so they were able to show to us that if Attleboro is a city, so if the city did not vote for it, that we were probably going to be on the hook for about $190 million to just, as I've said multiple times, put lipstick on a pig, and we would have new HVAC, and we would have, new plumbing, and we'd have all the ADA and electrical code upgrades and things like that, but you'd still have the same, 1960, 1970 shell of a building. And you'd also have the classrooms that were not really conducive to 21st century learning. And so when the feasibility study came back with 190 million if you do nothing, or 130 million if you build new, because the state's giving you 50% and the city was on the hook for 50%, it was a pretty compelling argument for us to make to the city, and the voters came out 66% in favor of voting for it.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but MSBA, they are funding new projects, not renovations. Is that correct?
No, they've done some renovations.
They will.
Yep.
Renovations.
Yeah, if they feel that the bones of the building, if you will, and the site plan and things like that or whatever are, workable, they'll do a renovation. I think it's too early for us to make any assumptions about what they're going to come back with in feasibility.
Is there a difference in percentage they'll fund if it's a renovation versus a new construction? Or-
I don't believe so. I believe that the reimbursement rate that they give you is based on, town demographics and, different factors. Although that's a great question, because I know that there were certain credits that we received, like for different levels of LEED certification and things like that. So if maybe a renovation doesn't have the potential to earn maybe some of those credits, it could possibly change the reimbursement by a few percentage points.
Would there be any opportunity, and I don't know how the funding stream works with them, but if you are talking, say, a new building, you have opportunities for alternative technologies and heating, ventilation, all that may not be feasible, say, with a renovation. But it might qualify you for something under like green schools or another funding pot.
Yeah.
Given the governor's priorities was.
Yeah, all that will come out in feasibility, and they'll bring that back to us, and then that's where we have to have some spirited discussions about what we feel is the best route to go.
That's a valuable piece of information though, because I think MSBA has this stigma that they want us to tear down our school and spend all our money to build a new one.
Yep.
So it's good to know, I think, just for the community, that if there is the possibility to renovate, at a lesser cost, that gives a little bit more faith the community will have in MSBA.
Yep.
There's a pretty lengthy process that goes into the feasibility process that will explore all of these options, like other sites in the town. They explore the whether, what the existing building will be to, whether it is a renovation or tear down, the costs associated, what you can do with that. I'm in the middle of, for a second time in my own town on this. I have a meeting tomorrow night in my own town in the same process. But they are, they will do a deep in depth in that, like what is viable for those technologies to on site, or the geothermal heating is a possibility, things of that nature. There'll be a lot of information that they will pull together for you as part of that. And not they, MSBA, it'll be they, the contractor that we hire as a committee to do that.
Well, you're gonna hire a design firm.
Design, you'll do an OPM first, and then the design.
Owner's project manager
Owner's
comes
project
first.
manager. And then the design firm enters into that and traffic studies and all kinds of things, yeah. Okay.
I just have a question. So back to Mr. Hull's question, MSBA has two that we could apply for. Wasn't one the accelerated repair?
Yeah, but
That's completely different than
yeah, the accelerated repair is,
just like windows or a roof or.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a great question. So, yeah, I'm not gonna, read through page after page. But I do think that there are aspects of the statement of interest that do provide some of the historical context for you, like for instance, on page 7. On page 7 at the top, you've got the historical perspective. It was 50,000 square feet, built in 1953, 1999, 3 additions to the building, including the pre-K kindergarten, a library, and a wing with a gymnasium, music room, and therapeutic adaptive phys ed spaces. 2016, the roof was replaced. Because the roof was, I believe, an MSBA project, or, we received some MSBA funding for the roof, they will expect a credit back if that roof ends up getting demolished. And we went through that in Attleboro. They replaced our roofs, much bigger building, 500,000 square foot building as opposed to a 68,000 square foot building. But there was a credit to the reimbursement percentage that they expected to get back because they had put the money out for the roof originally. So that's
Is there a statute of limitations on that? Like it expires at some point?
I'm sure there is, but I'd be willing to bet that in our case, a 2016 roof is probably still going to be something that they're going to expect to credit back. I mean, that's, that again, a little bit premature, but I think it's my responsibility just to, try to shed as much light on some of these intricacies that, that you might not think about. So I'll allow you to digest that at your leisure. And by the way, I'm putting all these artifacts into a digital folder. So for those of you that would prefer to access them digitally, you'll be able to, I'll give you a link that gets you into it. It doesn't necessarily have to be a Google account or anything like that. But if you, I'll email that to everybody after our meeting today.
Is there anyone currently at the school district that's a procurement officer?
Well, Leo, as the incoming district business administrator, has started his procurement training through MCPPO.
So, on the Dayton side, there were 2. There is now 1, Serena. So,
Yeah, I have quite a bit of training with that too. So
oh, good. But you're supposed to have a license, all right?
I have stuff.
Oh,
I don't
good.
know if it has a timeline on it.
That will be critical when you go out to bid for the design engineer.
Absolutely.
I have a question.
Sure.
How many students are there now at the elementary school?
Caitlin?
483.
And are we designing to something more than 483?
I I would recommend that.
Say what?
It will be,
More than 483 or, thank you.
So one huge aspect of this process is an enrollment study. So we already have a regional firm, NESDEC, the New England School Development Council. They do consulting with school committees and school districts on hiring. Like, for instance, they were hired by the district to do the superintendent search when I was hired. They do enrollment studies. And so we have enrollment projections that indicate that we are going to need a bigger building.
I'm assuming, but
Yeah, but it's extremely formulaic. You know, it's not like a matter of saying, well, you know, we have 483 in there now and it's really tight. So we'd like to, you know, build something for 550 to be on the safe side. They're going to tell you based on the enrollment study, exactly what they'll build it for. That's not to say that you can't barter with them a little bit. And again, I apologize in advance for how often you're going to hear me say the word Attleboro, but you know, when the enrollment study came back, the MSBA told us in Attleboro that we could build a school for about 1,700 kids. And fortunately, we were able to have a city councilor who was able to show plans for all of these homes that were going to be built. And so we were able to convince them to build it for 1,875 kids. So, you know, we got another 175 kids of our enrollment space out of it. So,
yeah, I mean, that may present a balancing question with the townsfolk if you're like, you know, so bigger is better and you have a budget constraint. So that's, so we don't know if we're going to use the same, I understand renovation would keep it there. If we voted to do a new building, would it still want to stay on that footprint? Because you're going to have to operate a school while construction's going on. So you can't tear the old one down till the new one.
yeah, that's, you know, that's what's going to come back in feasibility, you know, because there's some space on that campus, but, you know, you've got a middle school there as well. So, you know, there's no, you got to be really careful how much, let's just say there was new construction between the existing DES and the existing DMS. You got to be careful as to how much you're going to snug the new elementary up against to the middle. So,
Sure, you may have utilities or septic or whatever out there too. And
And you're gonna mess up kite day, which is a massive problem for me.
Go to town. Question I do have, with Abercrest coming, and they've already broken ground, so it's coming.
what was the context on that? I'm sorry.
Abercrest, a large
Okay.
development on Tremont, all the way to Chase, some of which will be affordable housing. I mention that because traditionally, affordable housing brings children. That being said, and with school committee members present, would it be wise, let's face it, we're going to have overcrowding at the middle school. Would it be wise to take a look at moving the 5th grade to the elementary school to relieve some of the pressure at the middle school, where you have the opportunity to do something new to accommodate that? That's something to think about. I didn't expect an answer.
And that's a great point. I've also heard, you know, some people talk about putting the 8th grades at the high school.
That's more complicated because.
It is.
The whole bit to buy into.
It is, but it's
a similar
proposal.
We'll say in our NESDEC study, we did take a look at, that was something they looked at also. Well, here's some of the things you could do to alleviate this problem, and they showed the pros and the cons of those two. I don't recall what they were off the top of my head right now, but if we look back at that study, they did look at that.
But so grade configurations are something that the MSBA is going to have to exhibit a tremendous amount of flexibility because, when I originally wrote the statement of interest, I wrote the statement of interest primarily for Dayton Elementary School, but I also talked about how poor the entrance and egress and parking and all that stuff is. And I made multiple references to Dayton Middle School because it's on the same campus. And in terms of giving me some feedback on my rough draft, like a teacher would, when you submit a rough draft of a paper, they said, you have to pick one building or the other. Now you can talk about, you can make a reference to the fact that they share a bus loop or they share certain aspects of parking or outdoor space. But you can't write a statement of interest for two buildings. So what I wrote, what we submitted for was a statement of interest on a pre-K through 4 building. Now, that's not to say that it's inconceivable for the owner's project manager and then the design firm to come in and say, wow, well, we could build this a little bigger and put the 5th grade in it and alleviate some problems. So they'll take all that into consideration. But it's something that the MSBA would have to have a compelling case from the design team.
How typical is it to have 5 through 8 instead of 6 through 8? I mean, because I just grew up in the world of 6th grade was middle school.
That's what I did.
Yeah, and in Attleboro, it was 5 through 8. Here it's 5 through 8, but.
Hold on, I lied. I went to Catholic school, so I was 1 through 8. And I went from the same 12 kids to, 300 kids. So I didn't grow up in that world,
Yeah,
but
so did I. It was kindergarten through 8.
6 through 8, Cohan.
yeah, it
Yeah.
just seems like more normal to have 6 through 8.
Yeah, Brockton's 1 through 6 and then,
I was K through 6 and then 7, 8 was by itself.
yeah, 70 by itself. Yeah.
I was in Wayne, junior high school.
Well, on a point, but I agree with Mr. Hall. I mean, if you look and say we need to expand the size of the elementary school, among other things, that surge, that population is going into the middle school. So to your point, maybe it would be wise to essentially solve 2 problems with one renovation / construction.
Right.
That's a good point. I agree.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, you don't want to have that snowball effect where oh, great, we solved this problem. And then you look across the parking lot.
Well,
Yeah.
Last thing you want is to open up a building that's already too small.
I agree, but it's certainly important to stay on the table.
And that could be something that, again, we don't have a crystal ball, but that could be something that could be a more compelling argument for the taxpayers to realize that, their commitment to this would not only alleviate problems that we have at the elementary school, but also there's an aspect of it that would help us with the middle school as well. So.
One other point, if I may.
Sure.
Regarding the population study and funding, et cetera. Norton built, their middle school was opened in 1999. And I had the opportunity to work there for 5 years. But on each floor, you had a center stairwell, and then you had the 2 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade teams. There was an empty classroom in each wing. And I said, what is this about? And they said when they went to the building committees, et cetera, they said the population projections showed that they were going to need these classrooms within 5 to 8 years. And let's pay for it with today's money. So again, we had a little bit of a discussion. And you mentioned Attleboro, I saw that it happened in Norton also.
Mhm.
So the population study or projection rather is a key point here.
Yeah. And Brockton does the same thing at the high school. They have a building that they periodically shut down that doesn't have anyone in it. And then when the population increases, they open that building back up and have classes in that building.
Really?
That's smart.
They've utilized that for, I don't know, since 1970.
So the next in the chronological order of artifacts, was the MSBA started to narrow down the statement of interest to a smaller number, and they go out on what's referred to as a senior study site visit. So back in September of 2023, we entertained senior staff from the MSBA at Dayton Elementary School. I want to take the opportunity to thank soon-to-be Principal Lima, because Caitlin has many strengths, but one of her strongest attributes is organization. And so I worked with Caitlin and the outgoing principal, Mrs. Desert, on making sure that we had photos that were reflective of the issues that we were dealing with. Very grateful to Dayton Police, because Dayton Detective Richards got the police drone out and did these overhead shots to show how we have some significant issues with buses crossing car traffic and foot traffic. So, and I know the print on this is very small. So I'm gonna give you a digital version of this that you can look at on your own screen with better resolution.
That's a broken piece of floor.
But as a result of that visit, you know, I don't know whether you say they liked what they saw or they didn't like what they saw enough that, you know, they invited us into module one. And so module one started for us in May. It's a 270-day period. We are right on time in terms of the things that we need to be doing. One of which was establishing this committee. By Friday, they need it, or not, actually, it's a date in July, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to get it done tomorrow. I have to give them the roster, so to speak, you know, who lists the chair, lists the vice chair, and all the community members and the different roles that have to be, the boxes that have to be checked. So we'll get that in. And then the next piece that Principal Lima and I are working on, that we are going to share an update with you when we meet next, is the Massachusetts School Building Authority School District Educational Profile Questionnaire, AKA the questionnaire. So I'm just going to give you a minute to just thumb through that, because it is full-size pages.
Bill, under the proposed chart, would this be where you be looking for increases, if you are looking for size increases?
Yeah, I'm gonna give everybody just one more minute to look through it. I'm actually looking for the deadline on this, which I'm pretty sure is July 30th. I have to log back.
Just a quick question around like spaces. It wasn't that long ago that pre-K moved to the elementary, correct?
2 years.
Grades currently served in the school facility, elementary, pre-K through 4.
That's
This is simple.
it's a sample.
Okay, okay.
And on that note, what was the reasoning behind that? The pre-K back? Because to me, doesn't it make more sense to have it at the high school so we have kids in CTE programs participating with those kids?
I do.
They do, but they would have to travel, right?
They get dropped off every,
Oh, okay.
this kid dropped off.
Yeah, there's a pre-K at the high school.
Oh, there still is pre-K at the high school. All right, all right. I thought it was,
So, yeah,
okay.
a lot of times the students that, like if ours fills up, we do refer them to
Okay.
the CTE program so that they can still attend.
Gotcha. I thought it was one, it was in lieu of, not.
Like 20 kids.
Because there's an AM and a PM
Gotcha. Okay.
that we have.
So I was double checking my deadline on this. So this is due back to the MSBA with all of our specific information. So, to Mr. Ferry's point, there are blanks on here for grade 5, grade 6, grade 7, grade 8, grade 9, 12. Those are things that we'll just, either we'll delete those rows in the table or we'll put not applicable. But this is due back to them at the end of July. So Principal Lima and I and the outgoing principal, Mrs. Dessert, have already, we have a separate draft of this, just like a working draft. And we've started to fill in some of this information. But what we would like to do is, and this is one of the next things that's on the agenda is to start scheduling the upcoming meetings, is we'd like to share a draft of this with you in advance of our next meeting. And then when we come to our next meeting, get your feedback and us come to a consensus on the EPQ before we submit it to the MSBA.
I'm not seeing, I understand all the internal stuff, but I only see one thing that talks about outdoor learning. I mean, is there any, the whole thing, just there's site work, we may blow out utility for one building, trying to build this one, if we build a new one.
Yeah, this
that get captured.
That'll get captured in feasibility. Because this is just, it's kind of perfunctory, to be honest with you, but I do think that there are aspects of this document that are healthy, like for instance, section 4 on the community engagement. Leo is taking over as the district business administrator, but he's outgoing as far as director of IT. And he and I have already had conversations about, we'd like to do a website, or it could be linked to the district website, and it could also be linked to the town website, where people can go and they can find any of these artifacts. If we, do get to a point where we get into a project, we can post construction photos and, different things like that. But you're absolutely right. I mean, this barely scratches the surface, but I think it's just, in my opinion, it's an exercise for us, especially like the building leadership and the superintendent, to start thinking about what you want the education to look like in the new building based on the limitations that you have now. And then we have a responsibility to share that with you and get your feedback on that.
So in regards to the discussion that talked about bringing 5th grade back, is there perhaps maybe an additional column that may or may not be included that says, okay, if this is now, these grades with this additional one,
Scenario A, scenario B.
Yeah.
Well, there is that language in there, if considering grade reconfiguration, which you can almost just defer back to, we're going to, do an enrollment study and
I don't know if there's programming elements of fifth grade that, or sixth grade that you might need that you didn't need if it wasn't included.
I have a question on the section 4, talks about indicate whether the district has determined whether or not an override of debt exclusion might be required for full project funding. Do you know if, as part of the feasibility study, do they offer any like financial consulting as part of it? Or do they just kind of work with the town? Because I know on the other projects I'm on, that was something that was in the scope of the work, that they give us some financial consulting too and look at. Or is that something that we're just gonna do all kind of in-house?
When I went through this, the last time, most of it was done by, the city council, the mayor, the treasurer, it was done by City Hall.
Okay.
But, that's,
Good question.
Thank you. Yeah, looking forward, I got to work with MSBA on the BP part, just getting it onto the ballot, and I just know they were such professionals, and I figure there might be some resources out there that what similar towns of similar economic status do, and I know there's so many of us with similar constraints,
yeah,
But I also know there's very limited options anyways, there's only so many things we can consider for funding.
The one, I enjoyed working with the MSBA. The one thing that I will say is that, their resources, and when I say their resources, I'm talking about like staffing resources, only go so far. So a lot of what they'll do is they'll say, hey, Whitman Hanson did a project and they built a middle school in Whitman back in 2012. Why don't you talk to the folks in Whitman and see, how they approached it. And I noticed they tread very lightly in terms of like, I think they want to try to protect themselves in terms of, like they give you advice and you take it and it doesn't work. And then you're, then you're pointing the
They
finger
made
back.
that recommendation. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And I will say, depending on what, if you build new versus existing, sometimes it may think like it's logically less expensive to do a renovation. It's often more expensive to do a renovation. And the detailing that is used, I'm really familiar with the middle school in Norton, and some of the round brick columns and things like that are a lot of fluff that added an awful lot to construction costs that were unnecessary. Could have been done, spent more
that's a
wisely.
big part of it, staying with realizing where we are and make sure we're meeting our needs.
Well, that's why I guess, choosing who is going to help lead this committee with design decisions, hopefully that's someone that is listening to. Because some of that detailing for the middle school was somebody's wet dream. And it really didn't hold up well, and, they had a lot of issues with construction.
yeah, I will tell you that
Thank you.
the process to vet the owner's project manager is something that is, it's pretty intense, and
And the design firm that was, at MSBA, that you're part of that group.
Yeah.
It was pretty intense. Yeah.
Very-
Are those things that we do as a committee as a whole, or do we break down into a subcommittee?
it's us as a committee.
Okay.
So they'll come in and, the OPMs will have a schedule. So, one OPM will come in at 4:30, another one will come in at 5:15, and we keep them on a pretty tight schedule, and, they do this pretty regularly. So, they will come in with binders that are, like this. Once we know who is, going to be coming for us, we can start doing some of our own homework too, and, finding out other projects that they're working on and
Which is
talk
to
to
say,
some
we
people.
really want to,
Absolutely. Yep.
And to the earlier point about whether debt exclusion would be necessary and helping to figure that out, the town does engage a financial advisor. We work with your bank fiscal advisory services, and they could provide some sample bond schedules. We can see what payments would look like, and then we could work with the town accountant's office to see, relative to our levy capacity, to help us figure out whether a debt exclusion would be necessary or what might be necessary to make different proposals work.
Oh, thank you. Awesome.
Somerset, they built a new school and they paid, said 81 to 86 million, and that was for 124,000 square feet.
Their high school.
Well,
Oh, the new one. Oh, the middle.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. That one's
That's a
opening
lot of
next year.
square feet. That's over that. 6 million, 150. That was with grants, I'm sorry. It was more. With grants, it was 86 million.
So, those are the artifacts that I have for you for today. We do have a sheet going around where we're trying to make sure that we get cell phone numbers for folks if for some reason, town halls shut down for whatever reason. I'd like to talk about trying to get a fairly regular schedule for meetings. I think at this point, if we can schedule for maybe July, August, and September, maybe when we get to the August meeting, we could then start to look at what work we have ahead of us and whether we need to start meeting like twice a month instead of once a month. But we definitely, Principal Lima and I definitely want to present the EPQ to you before we have to submit it at the end of July.
That was gonna kind of be my next question. Do we have a rough guideline of milestone dates? Like, this is what is expected of us?
We do. I didn't put that into the folder yet. I have to dig it up, but I will make sure that ends up in the folder too. I'll try to even get that in there before I share the folder with everybody so that it's a little bit more comprehensive. School committees, Tuesdays. I know selectmen, Wednesdays, even though we don't necessarily meet school committee consistently. I didn't know if Mondays tended to be suitable for folks.
Good for me.
I was gonna, and not, listen, not everybody's gonna be able to make every single meeting. It's just, it's the way that it is. But I was hoping that we could maybe have a meeting on Monday, the 22nd of July.
Same time?
If town hall's available. What is
There is another committee that I am a member of that meets on the fourth Monday of the month at 6 PM. It's actually the meeting is scheduled right at the end of this one, actually.
Right.
So depending on the time that we were able to schedule, that would be fine, but I do have a pre-existing commission commitment at 6 o'clock.
That's why we went with, that's why Mr. Mullins suggested we go with 4:30.
Yeah, no, if we're gonna stay with the 4:30 timeline, that'd be fine.
Works for me.
Do you want me to help out as the secretary and line, because I talk to Leanne every
That'd be great.
other day, if not every day, so I can kind of work on schedule, make sure the room's scheduled, get the Zoom set up.
That would be fantastic.
Are we do you want to include the Zoom as part of the following agenda? So if somebody, say if there is somebody that wants to participate from the committee remotely,
Yeah,
we'll do that too. I can have her set up a somewhat recurring.
that'd be great.
And are the meeting agendas going to be posted on the district website, or will they be posted in each of the towns in the district?
I think we should spread the wealth as much as we can. We ran out of time on this particular agenda. And my secretary, Michelle, and I were scrambling, and it slipped my mind that town hall was closed on Friday. So going forward, we'll have it posted the same way that we post our school committee agendas.
Okay, perfect, because when I was reading through the open meeting law, those questionnaires, is a little guide that the Division of Open Government publishes. And one of the options for regional school bodies is that as long as the district's website gives clear instructions on how to locate the agendas, that they can be just posted centrally there and they don't have to be physically posted, which, over posting is probably better, right? In the interest of transparency.
Yep.
But if we wanted to kind of adopt that as at least a fail safe, that way, just in case there's ever building closures or anything, there'd be only one place that it has to be posted rather than trying to coordinate across a couple of towns. That might be easier to have in our back pocket anyway.
Okay.
That's how the district currently does it.
Bill, is this a Dayton appointed committee? Not a school district committee, correct?
The selectmen the school committee sanctioned the process, but the selectmen
Had to
were the ones
create
that
the
had to approve
committee,
it.
yeah. That's what should go on the
Did I
town.
categorize that correctly? Okay.
I think so. Sounds good.
So even though the 22nd is actually the fourth Monday in July, I was going to propose the 19th of August and the 16th of September. And I'll put when I share the folder out with everybody, I'll do calendar invitations for those dates.
Oh, I apologize for the clarification. I actually have a pre-scheduled vacation that week, so I'll actually be out of town that week of the 22nd. Sorry.
Yeah, and once we get to September, I can't do this before 5.
Okay.
The 19th of August, family visiting from Seattle. So
Okay.
we will not be in town, actually, so I won't be able to attend that.
Okay.
I have a question on just public outreach, which we kind of talked about a little bit.
Yep.
I don't know if you would be willing or Kevin, but it'd be nice if both the selectmen and the school committee, if we had like an announcement, but it was the same, like consistent, just so that the public's hearing the same thing from both committees, that this exists and we are working on this, because I would like to be able to say at the end of this that we have been advertising it across multiple platforms, and I appreciate the website. That would be real nice, putting it on your website, what we do and linking it to the town, because I think those things are so important.
So
Do you want me to draft something?
It'd be nice if it just came from one person and it went to both committees. So if you or Kevin or, whoever, that would be nice if we could just get it on our announcements. I don't know if the school committee is willing to read. Do you guys read announcements too?
We have chair reports.
Give chair reports? Okay, yeah, that would be nice just to have something consistent.
And Mark, if there's any documentation you'd like displayed at the payment counter at the tax collector's window, I'd be happy to put something up there as well.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, that sounds good.
But so to go back to your point, you said starting in
September,
you can't meet until
5, after 5.
after 5. Okay. Can you do 5?
I can do 5.
Okay, all right. For this one, I booked the hour and a half just because of the fact that, I wanted to have some cushion in terms of, setting up the room and making sure that the Zoom was set up and everything like that. I didn't necessarily think that we needed all 90 minutes, but, I think, in my opinion, 4:30 for the next one, considering that we've got that EPQ submission, I think would be worth it. But then I think as we start getting into those later meetings, we can aim for a 5 o'clock start and we should be able to be.
Yeah, until we get to like project manager interviews, we shouldn't have too much extensive discussion, right?
Yeah, I mean, I remember doing those on a Saturday one time, we did the OPMs at a regularly scheduled SBC meeting. But then the architect, designer, and the construction company, we did those on Saturdays because those were more elaborate presentations.
Yeah.
So, but we can make those decisions, as we get closer to that. All right,
So the 22nd is definite, right? 4:30, July 22.
July 22, August 19, and we're gonna aim for September 16th, but we're gonna have started at 5.
What I'll do is I'll set up like not a recurring Zoom, but a consistent Zoom link with ID and password so that whenever we meet, it's always the same. I just won't have Leanne nail it down to a date. That way, if we want to be flexible, we can just keep reutilizing that. And then I'll have her put those dates for now on the book so we have the space. And if we need to adjust, we can, usually as long as you got 2 weeks out. And we know most of especially for this room, we know all the committees and commissions that use it. So
Yeah.
unless there's like an odd one off, we should be fine.
Mr. Chairman, would you like a motion for the next meeting?
I would.
I'd like to propose a motion to schedule the next meeting of the school committee for Monday, July 22nd at 4:30 PM.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion for July 22nd, 4:30 PM at Old Town Hall? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Right. Any new business for the good of the order? Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
All right, we have a motion and a second. We have another second. Any discussion?
Wait a second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.